In the UK budget, George Osborne, the Chancellor, made several digs at France, basically suggesting that the French economy was in terrible trouble and the British economy was doing brilliantly. I'm joined now by Sarah Gordon, our business editor, to discuss this fraught issue of the French economy versus the British economy. Sarah, tell us what George Osborne actually said.
Well, he started off by saying that the UK economy was growing much faster than our rivals, much faster than Germany, but as he put it, 7 times faster than France's, which is true of last year, and obviously the Eurozone's been mired in terrible economic slump. But he also added insult to injury, some might say, by devoting £2 million of funding to celebrate the anniversaries of 2 English victories over France, Agincourt and Waterloo. And he added a jibe to the Scottish nationalists to that.
He also said, if I remember, that the county of Yorkshire created more jobs last year than the whole of France. The French economy is in pretty bad shape, so, I mean, hasn't he got a point?
Well, yes, he does have a point. I mean, but if you look over the longer term and on several other key variables, actually France is doing rather well. I mean, looking back over the long term, over the last 50 years, France and Britain have really grown more or less at the same rate. So you've had very different policy mixes, but with the same result. And the kind of criticisms that are made nowadays of the French model, specifically the level of state spending, which at 55% of GDP is absolutely huge, and I think, you know, the second highest in Europe. But as someone said to me this morning, admittedly a Frenchman, you pay a lot in taxes in France, but you get a lot back.
But in Britain we have much lower unemployment, job creation is going at quite a pace. On many counts it does seem like the British economy is much more dynamic than the French economy right now.
Except there's this mystery at the heart of the UK economic recovery, isn't there, that productivity is doing so badly. I mean, UK productivity is no higher now than it was in 2008, which is very different to the rest of Europe and particularly of France. I mean, on all different measures, the French are far more productive than the English.
What does that mean? I've seen this statistic that the French produce more in 4 days of work than the British do in 5 days.
Yes, which is why they get to go on holiday for a month in August. I mean, we should be taking a leaf out of their book. I mean, we don't know what the explanation is. I mean, it is a mystery why UK productivity has not recovered or has not grown as the economy has picked up. But nevertheless, what you can say is that French productivity has been high for many years. This is not a new factor. This is, this is something that's been going on for a long time.
But that's not much compensation to somebody in France who's out of work, and there are very many more people out of work, especially young people in France, than there are in Britain, for example.
Indeed. I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting that the French economy doesn't face big challenges. I mean, particularly, as you say, the inflexibility of the labour market, which is something that, for example, in Spain, there's actually been more radical reform on than there has been in France. And, you know, the government of François Hollande, as you well know, as a former Paris bureau chief, faces huge challenges. But on a number of key variables that George Osborne chose not to focus on yesterday, the French are actually doing better than us.
Let's just finish with the historical references. Agincourt, great victory for the English army. The English, and obviously Shakespeare, have made much of that down the centuries. But I seem to remember that the 100 Years' War ended not terribly well for the English.
Indeed. Well, you tell me, who won that one?
Well, the French did. And the English were left without any of their continental possessions anymore. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Hugh.